dreamers and fellow travelers. Some way, via fate or fortune, you've stumbled back across our intellectual podcast. Sorry, soul, that you are, but now you're tuned in, and you're already committed to watching the whole thing through. So tonight, me and two of my closest acquaintances have decided to film something that's not the ordinary podcast or talk show, not the ordinary skit show. Tonight, we have an actual guest with real professional merit and talent who's decided it's worthwhile to talk to us, and we're glad he did, because it's probably not, but now our podcast is going to skyrocket in views. Extremely talented actor. Stay tuned. It's worth the while. I'm not going to give you a spoiler alert. I'm just going to tell you that tonight we discuss anything brevity to serious, from mental health to just learning how to deal with life and to become a working professional who isn't crippled in the aspirations that you can't really achieve. Tonight, it's about an hour and a half of who knows what.
But we do have some new...
All right. So we do have some announcements.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for listening to our late night show. We're going through some restructuring, some rebranding. We're bringing you new content. Bringing on some new guests that we know that y'all want to hear from. That's what we would think. We are working on some new side shows. Keys Kitchen. This is Keys. He has his own cooking show. It's pretty cool. So stay tuned. That will be dropping very soon. We are looking at just developing essentially a new program. So we renamed our podcast to the Dream House Podcast instead of Dream Extreme. Dream Extreme is now our studio name. Podcast is called Dream House Podcast. Going away from that, we are going to have a new host, a new chair. It's going to be a female. So stay tuned for that.
Diversity.
Equity. We're going to introduce her, hopefully come up pretty soon.
Probably in the next 2 weeks, yeah.
Next few weeks, so stay tuned for that. And furthermore, introducing our guest.
Yeah, so, well, first off, like, I don't know about you guys, but I've been strategically trying to pick a role model, someone to not just look up to, but kind of see how they reach their goals. And my wife's a role model of mine, and she gave me a motivational speech the other day that said she said I needed to kind of take a step back away from all the things I'm trying to do, because I like to do a lot of things at once and just focus on one thing. So here I am doing this instead of getting the chance to audition in front of an agent. But I'm taking a chance because I have faith in you guys. I have faith in this podcast, and I think it's going to go somewhere eventually.
It's gonna go, brother.
But you gotta have that
somewhere.
But it's gotta go somewhere. It could go left or right. It could go left or right. But you gotta have that role model, like, to see the end goal, like how they get there, and instead of just like going for a bunch of different goals, pick one goal and then look how that role model kind of gets to that one goal. Yeah. And speaking of role models, our guest is a huge role model of mine. Like, I watch all of his stuff. He's awesome. He's so dynamic in everything he does.
He does not relent on finding new work. He's been in more roles than you got fingers on your hands, dude.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. Like, that's no lie.
Rarely takes
more than my toes too.
Yeah.
So I'm
busy and he's accomplished, and he's
I'm really stoked to see what he has to say, because I'm talking to my role model right now.
Yep.
Like, it's really cool. He's a very accomplished and hilarious comedian, actor, and dynamic actor. He's a voiceover actor and a star. He's a father, and he's a husband to his wife. I'd like to introduce to you Rob Huebel.
What up, Rob?
What's up, Rob?
Are we recording, or are you
wanna,
just setting me up?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're recording basically what I'm going to do, like whatever we get. I'm going to do some editing. I do all the editing and stuff, so I mean, of course that first part I'll edit up and take. But yeah, we're live, man. We're here.
Cool.
Just we want to start off by asking you a few questions if you want to answer them.
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to talk about your analogy about the tree thing?
Yeah,
please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I have that much perspective on like my career or what I'm doing. Like, I just sort of have always looked at it as like a marathon, you know, like in this world, like in this like entertainment business, there really is no finish line. Like you just kind of have to like keep going and keep going. And you know, I used to get like when I was starting out, like I would get really jealous of other people. You know, I would look at other people's careers and see what they were doing, and you know, someone that had maybe.
I have that now.
Yeah, and so, but you know, it's not super productive to do that. It's not even really that productive to compare yourself to other people. You know, like I don't think so. I try to like not compare myself to other people. I try to figure out what I can do that other people can't do, or what's different about me that people respond to or people might like or whatever. And I try to sort of maximize those things. But yeah, as far as like your tree analogy and stuff, like, I don't know. I don't really think about it in those terms. Like I as far as like water and stuff, like what sort of like nourishes me or like sustains me on some level, it's in my career, I've been really been more productive when I collaborate with friends. Like I just think it's too hard to do most things totally alone. So exactly. I kind of like was lucky because I was in New York when I started doing comedy and stuff, and I found like a group of like-minded people that were doing comedy also, and so we just kind of like joined forces, and so that working with friends, I think, is like that. It's sort of like nourishing, and it's like water and stuff. And I mean, you know, I have a family now, so that's different. You know, like I'm trying to make sure that sorry, my daughter got me sick. Make sure that I can.
Hey, thanks for doing all this, by the way. Thanks for coming in, and especially when you're sick. I didn't know you were sick.
Yeah, no worries. But it's just a coronavirus, guys. No big deal.
Yeah, you got like a week left, dude. You'll be fine.
It's just a shit that's gonna kill you eventually. And I was talking to them. I don't know if you know, over here we're basically flooding out over here. Like we might have to start building the ark. Like
probably,
or actually nowadays you just gotta go steal someone's boat. You don't have to steal.
If we're gonna be on an ark for like anywhere between 90 days and 365 days, as far as comedic relief
I wouldn't want to be on an ark with you.
I want people on mine so that I know, like, as we're sinking, I'm at least laughing until I lose my last breath.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it'd be really dark and it'd be really funny.
Where are you guys, in Anderson?
Anderson, yeah. I met your brother, I think, at Anderson University, actually, and he's the one that kind of helped me get in touch with you. And you gave me some awesome advice. It was brief, but it was really good. So I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah, your brother was telling me last time, because I sat down with him for about 3 hours. Or not that long, probably 2 hours, and I think he was editing something. He was doing something for a photo shoot. I think he just did a photo shoot for the graduation.
Okay.
And he gave me. We were just briefly talking. I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm just working part-time security and doing acting on the side." And he's like, "Oh, my brother's an actor." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I leave. Actually, I leave. I go. I think I went and unlocked the door for someone. And I come back, and he's still there, and I sit down, and I gave him a little history about the school. And he's like, "Yo, let me show you my brother. Let me show you something he does." And that's first thing he showed me was, "Do you want to see a dead body?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've totally seen him before, but not in this, and this is awesome."
That's hilarious. Yeah, he's been super supportive, you know, like I really appreciate that. Like that's another thing, too, that just going back to your sort of analogy about success and like a tree or whatever, like it really does help, you know, to have, it really helps so much to have people that support you, you know, like whether it's your friends or like, you know, my brother or your parents. But it's hard, like, you know, in this business, I mean, in any business, I guess, but like anything where you're like trying to do something creative or trying to do something different or on your own, and you're like, I don't know if this is going to be good doing this. It's just really helpful if like someone believes in you. You know, it could be your wife, could be your girlfriend, could be, you know, your buddies, but you know, it's so hard to do stuff by yourself. So that's my outlook, I think.
So Rob, jumping off of like what you just said about now you have a family, is that something you envisioned when you were our age, late 20s, early 30s? Like, were you like, no way, or did you know that was kind of in the scrolls for you? Like, how has that changed you professionally and personally, where now you have a family, but a lot of people don't necessarily prepare for that, and it does alter their responsibilities and their interests?
Yeah, well, I got married like super late. I didn't get married till I was like 45, and I had a kid at 47. And so you know, I'm late to the game on all that stuff. But yeah, for sure, man, it really changes, like, because they get you sick all the time. No, they you know, it definitely changes everything, though, obviously, because of your you know, your feeling of obligation, and certainly financial obligation, and you know, your the need to support these people and to be there for them, you know. So that puts limitations on your time. You know, they're in the real world. Like, when I was coming up in New York, I lived in New York for about 10 or 11 years, and I was doing comedy and performing like live out at different comedy theaters, and doing like sketches and a little bit of stand up, and, you know, mostly improv. And there were all these other people I would come across, you know, they were performing at the same theater as me. And some of these people were like, so good and so funny, but they were just in a different situation with their own personal lives. You know, like, some of them were, I was like 25 at the time, or 26. And some of these guys were like already married, you know, or, you know, already had a kid, or, you know, a lot different women that I met were like, had, you know, they were also trying to be performers that like had a child at home, or they also had like a job that was like, you know, like a job, like a, you know, a job that they didn't love, but they made a lot of money doing that. So, you know, all of that just puts limitations on what you can do with your time, you know. So I was very lucky that I didn't have that, you know, when, like, I didn't get married for a long time. I didn't have children for like a long time. And so that was really helpful to me, but now it's kicking my ass because I'm like an old dad, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of your acting style, like, how did you come across, I know you did improv and loved comedy and all that, but like your style is totally different. Like, did you just try to find something that no one else had, or did you just like find a craft and stuck to it, or yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I could put my finger on like what it is that I do, or like I know how to be funny on in any sort of like you know, I feel very confident that if I'm hired to come onto a show or a movie and, you know, shoot with them for a little while, like, I feel confident that I can be funny doing stuff. Like, I know how to either take what they've written and kind of just, hopefully that's already funny. You know, hopefully the script is funny, but sometimes it's not. Like, sometimes
you would think so. Yeah, you're not working with dog shit.
Sometimes you look at stuff and it's like, oh man, this isn't really that great, but maybe I can kind of like do what they wrote, but then do some other takes where I kind of improvise my own stuff, and so then they'll have some choices, you know. But yeah, I don't know that I like singled out like, oh, I'm going to try to be this type of comedian and only do this sort of stuff. I think you just sort of gravitate towards what you think is funny. You know, it's like, you know, when you're dicking around with your friends and like the shit that makes you guys laugh. By the way, if I shouldn't be swearing, tell me. You can. I don't know.
No, you're good, dude. Just be you, man. Just be you.
But you know, when you're dicking around with your friends, like, it's just the shit that makes you laugh. You know, it's like, like that one thing you mentioned. I did this thing called "Do You Want to See a Dead Body?" and all that was
yes,
a bunch of videos of me taking famous people out in the woods to find a dead body that I knew about. So it's, you know, a really silly, like dumb idea. Like, but hanging out with a buddy of mine, like whenever we were out drinking at a bar, it would be like time to go home, and then like he'd be going to his car and I'd be going to my car, and I'd be like, hey man, do you want to go see a dead body? And like it just came, so that was literally just like me being weird. And then eventually we got to the place in our lives where we were working in production and TV, and he was like, hey, we should shoot, like, do you want to see a dead body? And I was like, all right. So that's not like it's not like that sort of thing. No one really saw that because it was like, first I did it for Funny or Die, and then I did it for YouTube Red, and so I don't think many people saw it. But like, it's just a weird, stupid bit that I thought was funny, and but just an example of like, well, what do you joke about with your friends? Like, what's your kind of like angle on stuff? What do you think? What do you talk about a lot with them? What do you joke around a lot? So I think that's how you do that, but I think it's like always ongoing, like I don't ever feel like, and I'm done with figuring it out, like I'm still figuring my own shit out, like what else is funny? What else about me what can I do that's different, So, you just kind of...
Rob, I want to dissect that a little bit. Like in a topical sense right now, like being a comedian as far as 2020 goes, the way that like cultural and social climate is, you guys professionally have it really hard because everybody's really sensitive and on edge and on the end of the seats.
Especially now.
So when you talk about dead body, that kind of jumps into one of the questions I've been like burning to talk to you about. Is we watched a few of them, and one of them that I thought was genuinely very, very funny. You and Riggle are looking at a guy who wrote a little note about both of you in his note, and he was like, hey, if there's any confusion, it's both of these Robs as to why I killed myself. You know exactly which one I'm talking about, I'm sure, right? So we both, me, Quentin, and my buddy Jason, like, and to be totally transparent, like, we struggle with mental health problems, and we found it outrageously funny. We love dark humor. Despite the fact that, ironically, we love it, and we know it's dark. We know some people will be like, "Oh, that's a no laughing matter." We loved it, and we liked that you produced a little snippet of something that's 5 or 6 minutes long that's completely unapologetic, being like, "Yes, I understand that mental health is not a joke, but listen, there is some humor to be drawn with it. Like, there's a silver lining that we're going to put on camera, and you can take it as is." So we like that kind of stuff, and my question is, how do you feel like a skit, like, do you want to see a dead body where you're walking up in the woods showing, like, your buddy a dead body with a suicide note? How do you think that fits into today's comedic and social media climate where you have, more or less, for lack of better words, assholes like Logan Paul walking around the suicide forest in Japan going, hey, look at all these because I'm trying to get likes and popularity, whereas you guys produce it as a segment or an anecdote that's purely to be entertaining and comedic, where it's not for popularity, it's just, hey, we made something controversial, but at the end of the day, it's supposed to be funny.
You're just trying to make people laugh.
How do you feel like a skit like that fits in where now everybody's offended by everything, including something like a mental health joke?
Well, that's a great question. Well, first of all, the ones that you saw are probably like, I think probably like 10 years old. Like, because I did that one with Riggle like a long time ago, and that doesn't excuse it.
Yeah, they're definitely Funny or Die from like way back.
And that doesn't excuse it. But like honestly, like if I had to do it again, I don't know that I would make the guy have killed him. Like that's really fucking dark, But like,
dude, we left our asses off at it though. It's so good.
But,
that was good.
It's so good.
But like 10 years ago, like I don't know, it just struck me as funny, and I think Riggle may have even improvised some of that. Like, I'm sure that it was my...
He left the wife and kids in the minivan, and he had the keys. Dude, I was pissing myself. Like, he's like, I gotta get back. I left the kids in the minivan with the keys, and we're looking at a dead body, right? It's so fucked up, but it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, like, but so I think the answer to your question is, like, I don't know. It's really hard because, like, that Logan Paul thing did fuck me up later because, like, whatever. So I shot that thing with Riggle on Funny or Die, like way, way back. And then just like 5 years ago, we shot more of them for YouTube Red, or maybe it was like 3 years ago. I don't know. But, as soon as the show came out on YouTube, Logan Paul went and did that thing where he went to like that suicide forest, like you said. And so all of a sudden,
bad timing.
YouTube freaked out. Like they freaked out. And so they all of a sudden like our show was kind of like swept under the carpet. Like it was like, oh, that's not cool. But like, I mean, what he did, I think, is very different because obviously he's exploiting real human tragedy for, whatever likes on YouTube. I would argue that like we are playing characters that are so stupid and such idiots that like
there's no like the only people that could be doing that are just they're in jail. Speaking of that, we've all been in jail.
and also clearly like the bodies that we use are like those are dummies. Like it's not a real person. Like we're not trying to pretend like we're actually.
We would hope so.
But your point is good and your point is valid that like it's tough to joke about some stuff, especially now. Like it's getting harder and harder, but I kind of just feel like some of it depends on like how you are approaching it. You know what I mean? Like if you're like if you are like if you don't give a shit about that thing and you're shitting on people with mental illness, that's terrible. That's really fucked up. Like I don't think we were doing that. Like our intention was to and honestly, like I haven't thought about that particular bit in like 10 years, but like I would argue that like we're just trying to play stupid idiots that like have no sensitivity at all, not people that are actually shitting on like mental illness, but if I had it to do over again, like I don't know that I would make that part of that sketch at all. It's just it's not cool.
Staying on the improv category, what do you think about Whose Line Is It Anyway?
I mean, it's not my style of improv. Like it's just not what I do, but I think I haven't watched a lot of it, but I think that style of improv is more like what they call short form. Like it's like games where you're like kind of playing a game, and the improv that I do,
where you're kind of on the spot.
Yeah, well, it's like they tell you what the rules are, and they set up like a sort of situation for you, and then you kind of just make jokes within that, right? So it's like, hey, someone's going to come into your restaurant and you can't say the name of the thing that's on the menu or what, I can't think of a good example, but like the improv that I studied and kind of fell in love with was what they call long form improv, which is just like you get just like a general suggestion from the audience, and then you just do like long, funny scenes based off of that, So it's really just more kind of free form and more sort of like loose and not very structured at all. So I'm not trying to shit on Whose Line Is It Anyway. Like I'm sure those people are like super funny, but it's just not like I don't really know how to do that sort of improv.
I'm a big fan of
it's
lack
not your
of
cup of
structure.
tea.
Yeah. I like a lack of structure. I mean, we go through the day-to-day life is all sorts of structures, and then improv, if nothing else, should be very unstructured, and it should be very avant-garde, and it's that's the place for it. Dropped all the boundaries and the limits.
Yes. Speaking of your acting style, you have a new show, Medical Police, that just premiered.
Yes, Scrubs with Guns, as he put it.
January 10th.
Yes.
Did you ever expect to create...
That's how he described it, Scrubs with Guns. That's his words.
Did you ever expect to find a cure to save the world?
Well, what's crazy, man, is that, we shot that show like a year ago, and they wrote it, well before that. And the show is basically about these idiot doctors trying to solve this disease outbreak, so it's basically like what we're living through right now. So it's crazy that
no, excuse me, he described it as Children's Hospital with Guns. That's my bad. Children's Hospital where they had the face paint. That's my bad, but he did describe it as Children's Hospital with Guns, and we couldn't call it the same thing because they had guns. That was cracking me up so bad.
My favorite scenes when you jump out, I think y'all jump out of a window and
Children's
you miss the bus.
Yeah.
And you missed a bus and you walk off. That was totally badass.
Dude, Children's Hospital is fun. Dude. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was a blast to work on that show. You know, it's basically a spinoff of Children's Hospital, and you know, a lot of the same people, and we played the same characters. But so it's now we're trying to solve this like global outbreak. So we're flying like all over the world and trying to get to the, you know, the source of this virus. But yeah, it was a blast. You know, we basically it's just like Children's Hospital but with guns, and we had a little bit more money to do stunts and stuff. So the thing you're talking about, there's a scene where we're trapped up on top of a balcony and the bad guys are closing in, and down below us there, of course, just happens to be a truckload full of mattresses. And so we make a, you know, we jump off this ledge, you know, obviously leading the audience to think that, oh, they're just going to do like Jason Bourne and land right on this mattress truck. And of course, we're such idiots. We like completely hit the side of the truck and the roof and the windshield. But yeah, it's a blast. I mean, everyone on that show is like super funny. The woman that's the main other actor with me, Erin Hayes, is just like really, really funny and like great improviser. So it's, you know, it's a blast to do that. And yeah, if you haven't watched it, check it out. It's on Netflix right now.
Oh yeah, I've already almost killed through it working in night shifts, but yeah.
Cool. Where do you do security?
I don't do security anymore. Actually, ironically, I work for a sheriff's office. That's why I said earlier, I was like, we've all been to jail. That's something we got in common. I don't know if you picked up on that because I know you've been to jail.
We know you're banned. We know you're banned from Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, we knew all that already.
Yeah.
Like we did it. Yeah, we were like, oh yeah. Ironically, we've all been to jail.
That's awesome. Are you?
Tell us about Clemson University.
What's that?
Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just heard Clemson, so my ears perked up.
I have a funny story about Clemson University, but I want to hear your experiences at Clemson and what it was just like, the culture there, and how
I almost went to Clemson.
I guess how your alumni kind of plays into what's going on there now.
Well, when I was there, it was the 1920s, and it was an all-military school. No.
It was the 1920s.
Damn.
Fuck off, Rob. Okay, when did you go to Clemson?
Before the stock
I
market
was like,
crashed.
are you kidding me? You went before the crash, dude?
But
when did you go to Clemson?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun at Clemson. Like when I was there, we were sort of like okay in football, but not great. We were always like 7-5 or something like that. And so now it's like
the Carolina Panthers.
Bananas that the team is just electric and super fun to watch. I've been to all of their national championship games, and just got back from New Orleans, and had my hopes and dreams crushed down there, but that's all right. But yeah, it's like it's been really. I haven't been back to Clemson very much. Like I keep wanting to go back there and either do stand up or like do some sketches or show medical police or something, but I haven't been back in a long time, and I'd like to go. But I'm.
You need to let us know when you come.
Yeah, no doubt. But it was. I have great memories of Clemson when I went there, and great memories of like I'm still friends with a lot of people that I went to school with, and so it was a great place for me to hang out. My older brother went to school there, so I had visited him and kind of fell in love with it, and then. After me, our little brother went to school there too, so all three of us went to Clemson. But yeah, it was a great school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was there, so I kind of like couldn't figure out really what to study or anything. But it all worked out in the end.
Yeah. Next season, because I told Tim. I spoke to Tim, I think a few months ago. I was like, our podcast would totally pay for y'all's tickets for a game next year. We could all go together and like film it or like do some stupid tailgate shit or something like that. That'd be fun.
Oh, no thanks.
Dude, to rob people to get tailgate would be.
No
Dude, to rob people to get tailgate would be an absolute mess. It would be hysterical, comedy gold, and it would be a mess.
I worked for a nonprofit I just got done working for a nonprofit, and part of my job was volunteer engagement and community relations, and I had to go to Clemson and pick up a Dabo Swinney football. And to get in there now, you have to get buzzed in, and it was a Friday, and it was right before they were going to Arizona, and no one told me that they were closed. Well, these very strapping looking guy looks like he's straight from New Jersey, big rings. I was like, well, he looks important. So I walk over to him. He's talking to this just built football player, and I said, hey, is anyone home? And they're like, no, they're out of Arizona. I said, well, I'm here to pick a football up. And I didn't know who I was talking to. So they let me into the facility. I'm wandering around this multi-million-dollar facility. And I can't even remember his name now. It's so bad. Anyway, he pats me on the back. He leaves, and I guess his manager, he's like, do you know who that was? I was like, no, I don't know who that was. And he told me his name.
And you don't know it.
I don't remember.
So what's the point of bringing that up?
It's like whenever you meet someone famous, you don't even recognize it. You know, you see him on TV, you see him playing football and stuff.
Yeah.
And you stand beside him, and you're like, he looks famous or very.
Unless you like actually follow the person.
Right, and you just, I'm about to look it up. Hold on, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Well, while he looks that up, Rob, I want to segue. A little bit, but I feel like
can I just comment on that story? I thought that story was.
That
story was going to be so much better than it was.
You got toasted by fucking Rob Huebel, dude. You got to deal with that now.
And you know what?
What an honor.
I'm gonna play that every morning whenever I get out of bed.
Yeah, every morning.
Tell better
brushing your
stories.
teeth. Yeah, Rob, that was the worst story I've ever heard.
That is awesome. That story sucked ass, and Rob Huebel told you so.
What did you say earlier? Sucked a fart out of what'd you say? Someone's ass like Shakira at the Super Bowl.
I don't know, but I want to hear what he has to say now because that was fucking awesome.
No, dude, you got to do the thing you did a minute ago, like before he called in. The like a goat.
while he fact checks himself, Rob, I want to segue a little bit and get to know. You've been interviewed 1,000,001 times as a successful guy. Like you're used to getting asked about this role and that role and whatever predictable bullshit. We care more about you as a guy because you probably are tired of getting interviewed about predictable bullshit. We want to know what's something you're passionate about that like you wish people like us, whether it's through an interview or a phone call or a podcast or you name it, what do you wish people actually asked you about that you're passionate about that you've been waiting to talk about that you just don't get asked about? Like, what is Rob Huebel working on? What do you like to do? Whether it's casual, whether it's recreational, whether it's professional, like, what do you like to talk about? What's a burning hot topic in your life right now that you wish you could tell people about?
Well, I mean, I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately to promote the show, and so I feel like I've been talking a lot, but like, I mean, you guys talked about mental health earlier. Like, I'm totally down to talk about that. I feel like people don't talk about that very much, but maybe you guys do on this podcast. I don't know.
They don't. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, all of us struggle from it. I mean, I was in the military. I mean, I don't know if your brother told you everything about me. I kind of assumed he might have.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I was in the military. I went through some.
Go ahead.
What was that?
Yeah, no, I haven't done any research for this podcast.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, so, yeah, I was in the military. I mean, I went through some crazy stuff that I'm not gonna talk. I can't talk about on camera or anything. But like the actual struggle, like these guys just saw it like right before the podcast because I have short-term memory loss from PTSD, like just as a symptom, and it's probably the worst fucking thing I have ever experienced because. Setting, like, you'll probably, I don't know if you're going to watch this after it's done editing, I'm sure you might, but like, the setup, it looks very simple, but, like, the behind-the-scenes stuff, like, capturing your audio separately and all that stuff, like, I did everything, like, by myself, like, from scratch. I didn't look anything up on YouTube, and, like, it took 2 full days. I stayed up 36 hours straight trying to figure this shit out,
And, he built a shrine to you, Rob. Okay,
yeah.
He built a shrine. That's what he's trying to get at.
Yeah. So basically, all this stuff, like, we don't have a professional studio. We're doing this in a fucking bedroom. That's why it's called Dream House Podcast. Like, we're in my, I guess, bedroom. We set it up like a studio, and it's just fun, like you said, to f around with some friends.
But Rob, like, what's cooking right now in like your personal life that's outside of your acting roles or whatever, drawing up new work? Like, what do you, Rob Huebel, the guy, the normal dude, in your Monday through Friday right now? Like, what has your gears turned that you're excited about?
You interrupted me.
That it could have nothing to do with what people. It could be totally not have anything to do with acting. What is consuming your time and your interest and your passion right now that you would like to talk about that people don't ask you about?
Well, I thought we were going to talk about mental health. Like, I mean, we don't have to, but like, I'm just down.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just down.
No, like that's totally something that's definitely something that needs to be talked about more. That's why I started it. But Keys interrupted me. I don't know why he interrupted me, but like,
well, I mean, like
but like getting back.
I get it. I mean, like it's hard to like. I feel like sometimes it's hard to like have a mix of like stuff that's funny, but also like kind of meaningful or real, and like I just think like something like that.
Yeah.
If you guys talk about that regularly on the show, like you should focus on that. You know, like I know you don't want to talk about like your own struggles too much because it does become like pretty heavy and kind of hard to, to dig your way out of if you're just sort of like kicking around your own problems all the time. But like, I think talking about stuff like that, like mental health or just challenging stuff, just makes other people feel encouraged by it. You know what I mean? Like because there are other people that, and I don't know how many people listen to your podcast, but like, as you do more and more of them, people will find it, you hope. And so, everyone's going through something. And so if you have the ability to talk about something that is unique to you that other people might be struggling with, and I'm not saying that you have like the answers or that you can necessarily, you're not like a doctor, but like if you can talk about stuff that's real or difficult, then other people can hear that and say like, oh man, these guys are cool. I feel like I would be friends with them, or I feel like I could talk to them about this. Like I just think that sort of stuff is good to put out there because it's like people don't want to talk about difficult shit like that. It's too dark or it's too scary or whatever. But like the more you talk about that stuff, the more you can shine a light on it. But that said, that said, like I mean, I've been lucky that I haven't really had that. Like there are people in my life that have really struggled with it, but somehow I've just been kind of lucky that whatever chemicals are racing through everybody's bodies, I guess I've just been kind of lucky, knock on wood, up to this point, to not really struggle too much with that. I definitely feel down sometimes and feel you can feel depressed about stuff, but I haven't felt like I'm in a hole and I can't get out of it or whatever. So, I mean, I would just encourage you to talk about things that are real to you also. And you can talk about them in a casual way that makes people not feel weird about it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you want to bring up mental health, I think people that are famous, like, let's just talk about 13 Reasons Why on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, that one's crazy.
They wanted to raise, awareness on suicide, and they had a platform that I think did it right to suit our generation, but it got a lot of backlash at the same time, even though that they had that ending where they, sat down with all the cast members and they explained, hey, this is why we made this series, and this is why it's important to us, and people still weren't receptive to that.
Yeah, or the show Euphoria that came out about drugs, like the drug epidemic now, because like I'm terrified for my kid to go to school with like how bad drugs are now. I don't know if a lot of people have thought about that just had kids, but like drugs when I was in school, it was just marijuana, like stupid shit, like maybe some pills, but now it's like fentanyl and like fentanyl's crazy, and then opiates.
Yeah,
So I guess the question would be for. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just gonna pile on that. Like, I think about that too. Like, I have a 3-year-old girl, and like, my wife and I are, sometimes she'll our daughter will go to bed, and we'll be like, man, how the fuck are we gonna keep her off drugs? Like, and we're like, well, what are we talking about? Like, she's 3, but eventually she'll be 12, and there'll be some girl at her school that's like, hey, I got these pills,
quick,
or I got these painkillers or whatever, or in whatever, and not 9 or 10 years, who knows what they'll be into, but like that sort of stuff is it's
you might be Rob Huebel, but you're also dad now, so it's something to juggle.
Yeah, it's super scary. I think everybody worries about that. It's really scary.
Yeah, and having a kid's like it changed. When I had a kid, I mean, I only have one kid. He's about to turn 2 in a month, and when I had a kid, it completely turned my life around. Like I realized, like, oh man, I'm not a kid anymore. I gotta grow up. Like, Like I need to start actually trying to find a way to enjoy work and realize that the money I'm bringing in is not for me, it's for my family and everything I do is for my family. So that's kind of what I look for.
What do you do? What do you do for the sheriff's department? You're a deputy?
Yeah. So right now I'm working in the corrections facility, doing basically just correctional officer stuff, and all four of us, our camera guy even, works there. It's just a bunch of deputies.
Yeah, long story short, Rob, we work in a jail.
Yeah.
I'll cut you straight. Yeah, we work in a jail.
My long-term plan is because our sheriff's department hires corrections facility to get the communications down to where you can actually communicate with people rather than just like, oh, I'm gonna punch you, throw you on the ground, and all that kind of stuff. Like
de-escalation.
Yeah, exactly. They teach us to actually
de-escalate. There you go. I got you. Don't worry.
There you go. Words. Jason, the dictionary over here.
Not to interrupt you, Quentin,
The thesaurus.
Rob, while we're on the kind of the broad spectrum of drug conversation, they're just conveniently, I have one of my several questions I meant to ask you to get to know Rob Huebel, the person, not so much the actor. You know, I went to school for psychology, and I also am interested in what we were just talking about as far as concern as a parent and all the weird stuff that's out there. Getting to know you as I'm a movie buff. I like getting to know the person behind the camera, reading into actors' history and backdrop and their story and their struggle and their adventure. What, if anything, is your quote-unquote performance-enhancing drug? Do you have something that gives you that edge, that do you have a crutch? Do you have a go-to? Do you have a supplement? Do you have a ritual? I'm interested in the human psychology. What does Rob Huebel do that most of his coworkers and his colleagues don't talk about or don't know about, that you think has given you a little bit of an edge over the years that makes you uniquely Rob Huebel, that's kind of in your deck of cards?
Oh man, I wish I had something like that. I don't have anything like that.
Yeah. Nothing. Old school talent, dude.
Yeah.
It's a shit. I thought you'd have something cool,
no, I
man.
mean, I drink a lot of coffee. You know, I drink Red Bull. Just like the same thing. It's just like
we do too.
Like just trying to. You know, it's hard with a little kid to. I don't get to sleep that much. You know, so it's like, it's hard to. Sometimes feel like super alert or super like, oh, I'm gonna be super funny today when you're tired or you're sick or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I just try to like get sleep. Like sleep is so important, but I don't get enough of it. So then I just end up drinking a lot of coffee or drinking Red Bull or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah. So you know exactly what I was talking about earlier about the 36 hours of no sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially.
I mean, branching off that, Rob. I don't know if this is a question you can answer, but I'm sure it's one you...
What were you gonna respond to that?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that, you know, I'm sure you remember, if your son is 2, my daughter's 3. You know, you remember those early days, like when you have a kid, like it is rough, man. Like at the time I was shooting, we had just had our daughter, and I was shooting a show for Amazon called Transparent, and I don't even remember the show. Like I don't even remember, because like I was on like every day we were shooting, I was on like 2 hours of sleep or 3 hours of sleep. Like when the show came out, I was like, oh wow, I don't remember any of this, you know. But yeah, the early days of having a kid are it's such an adjustment for everybody. It's really crazy.
Probably, I mean, I'm just getting to the point where I think it's actually fun. It's not just, oh yeah, I got something that just shits and I have to feed so it can shit more. Like, like it's actually rewarding now that he's actually running around and pretty much he's saying dad and mom, and like he said, like today I called my wife, and while in the car we were going to pick up something, and my wife said bye, and I just heard Milo in the backseat, bye. I'm like, oh, you can say bye.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's crazy, man, and it only gets more fun. Like, I mean, I'm only a year ahead of you as far as like, you know, how old my daughter is, and like, it just gets way more fun because they'll start to do stuff that's funny. You know, they'll start to figure out like they'll figure out how to make a joke, you know, or like you know, what makes them laugh, you know, like and once they figure that out, like for me, like when she starts like joking around with me or like trying to like do a little comedy thing with me, I'm like, I get so psyched about it because it's like, oh my God, this little thing that was like nothing, a year ago, like couldn't even, form a sentence, is like now like trying to make a joke or trying to like play a little character that's funny. It's pretty thrilling to watch them figure stuff out like that.
This potato has a mind of its own, and it's actually funny.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Rob, I want to branch off that a little bit, and you said like running on 2 hours of sleep and trying to go through the motions and maintain everything else in your lifestyle. How do you find that funny in what you're talking about? Like in some mornings you wake up and you're just, nothing's funny and you don't feel funny. How do you jumpstart your engine and find your funny on a day that nothing's funny? And because you have it like any other working professional where some days just shit doesn't click and you're like, nothing's funny right now, but I need to make that money for myself and my family and make shit work. How do you find comedy in an average day that sucks where you don't feel inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, like, usually it depends. Like, if I'm shooting or if I'm like performing live, like I did a show last night. I do a show out here in LA with a group of friends of mine, just an improvised show. We do it every week, and it's just about Facebook. We have a computer, and we get someone from the audience to come up on stage, and we go and we look at all their Facebook page and all their pictures. So we just talk to them for about 15 minutes and figure out, everything about their life, and then we just improvise for about an hour about that person. And so this is just a show that I do with a group of old friends of mine, but we've been doing it for like, I don't know, like 10 years, and it sells out every week, and it's like, it's more fun for me than like anything else. It's just, and I don't make any money doing it. Like, I do it just because it's fun to do. But so sometimes if like, we did the show last night, and it was the last night. I don't know when the podcast comes out, but like last night or yesterday was I guess the day that Trump was acquitted, and so and I don't want to get super political with you guys, but that was for me a huge fucking bummer. And so to go and like try to do comedy, when you really kind of feel like the world is not moving in the right direction, it's like, what am I doing? You kind of look at what you're doing. You're like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing comedy? Why are we trying to make people laugh?
Yeah.
But I don't know. You can.
Yeah, there's so much corruption now. I understand what you're talking about.
That's what I want to know, though, Rob. Like, how do you find that light in the darkness where 9 out of 10 things going around like sucks, but where's your silver lining? What kind of jump starts or defibrillates you to where like, oh no, I can still make something good out of this. I can make this day good. I can make this week good professionally. What's your go-to? What's your cheat? What's your kind of source of joy that you re-inject into your craft to keep it moving when everything else sucks?
Oh shit! This guy just used the word craft.
Yeah, well, it's a craft. I mean, you've done okay for yourself, so to speak.
It is a craft.
We know it's your craft.
It is a craft.
No, the answer is I think that like I sort of rely on my friends, for real. Like the improvised show that we did the other night or last night. If you're not feeling it, you also have like a few other people on stage with you that you can kind of lean on, and then they kind of inspire you. The show gets some momentum behind it. People start laughing. Your brain starts clicking, and then before you know it, like everybody's having a good time and the show's really good, But like I was filming something yesterday also, excuse me, and I'm kind of sick right now, and I had to be there at 5:30 in the morning, and it's a sitcom, and I was like kind of like wondering, like, I don't know if I can be funny because I'm sick and it's 5:30 in the morning, like I'm not sure I'll be able to do this. But what happens is like you get there and then you see all these other people that are there, camera guys, sound people, script supervisor, producers, writers, other actors, and it just kind of like I always feel encouraged when I'm around a lot of people. Like I really like to be around people, and I really like when I lived in New York. Every time I got on the subway, I found that very comforting. And it seems weird because the subway is such a gross place, but like to me, it was always like, oh man, we're all getting on the subway to go and do our thing, and like, look at all of us humans working together to get to where we need to go, you know. But so I just bring it up to say that like I just like being around a lot of people. So comedy wise, if I'm not feeling it, or if I feel off, or if I feel sick or whatever, or I just don't feel funny, usually I just kind of look around at everybody else that has shown up to do their job, and the other actors and the writers that put a lot of work into it. And, you know, you end up sort of connecting with other people and inspiring each other that way, you know. So I get a lot of inspiration just from being around other people.
So in that sense, you're like an old school, tried and true professional in that you pull your own weight if everybody else is, and you go about your business like a real working man. There's no off days. If everybody else is showing up, you show up.
Well, it's pretty cool though, because like part of my job, I think the part that I like the most is like I'm not always like I've never had my own sitcom on NBC or ABC. You know, like I just have kind of been a guest star. Like I'm always a guest on someone else's show, and I guess Children's Hospital and Medical Police and Transparent, I had like, you know, bigger parts on that stuff, but I pay my rent like showing up as like a guest star on other people's sitcoms. But I always really liked that because it's like jumping around into different communities. You know, like I show up and all these other people are already there, and this show is already up and going. You know, like I've been really lucky to do other sitcoms and stuff that have had like, you know, long lives. Like I, you know, did a little bit on The Office, did a little bit on Curb Your Enthusiasm, you know, done like popped up every now and then on like The League or you know, so a bunch of different sitcoms. But
you worked with Steve Carell, didn't you? Early in your early years, like next to his office or something.
Yeah,
like
I was
that.
at the Daily Show when he was there. He was on camera, and I was a field producer. And my office was.
Oh, that's
yeah.
Okay.
And I shared an office with his wife, so it was like me and Steve's wife, and then the two Steves, like Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert.
That's a sitcom in its own right. Me and Steve Carell's wife. No, that's got potential, dude.
Yeah.
And we've been demonetized. All right, moving on.
Me and Steve Carell's wife. It's only gonna get weird, and it's only gonna get funny.
But
that's super cool.
Jason,
Jason's got
did you ever
follow-up
figure?
questions for you?
But she.
All right, Rob.
Go ahead.
All right. So I may not be a good storyteller, but what I can do is ask a question properly. If you were a type of food, what type of food would you be and why?
Oh my God.
Segue.
Oh, this fucking guy.
Hope you like curveballs, Rob.
I love this fucking guy.
Oh, this fucking guy.
You're killing me.
Sorry.
Killing me, Smalls.
No, I don't know, man. I haven't thought about that. Oh, you guys were talking about earlier. What else? What do I really want to talk about that that people don't like to talk about?
Yeah.
Do you guys talk about?
Yeah, that people don't ask you that you want to talk about.
Do you guys
Go
talk
ahead.
about like paranormal shit? Yeah, I thought one of you guys said you guys talk about conspiracy theories or paranormal stuff or something like that.
Yes, we do.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah,
Crack
we
that
love
book
him.
open, Rob. We're all ears.
No, I mean I don't have any. I don't have too much. I mean, you know, I've had some kind of weird ghost stuff, but nothing like nothing that would like blow you away. You know?
I have a crazy story.
Yeah, I want to.
I can share. I'm trying to figure out how I can like engineer this.
Well, I
where
lived in
I'm
a haunted house.
Well, you
So
did.
that
You lived in a haunted house?
He did?
Yes.
Oh, I'd be like, fuck you, parents. I'm going to live on my own. I'm going to go live in a box.
Well, I wasn't gonna be homeless.
But anyways, like, so I'm trying to figure out how I can engineer. So I was in the middle of the ocean. I'm not saying this is military or anything. That's how I'm gonna do it. So
As I say it out loud.
So
got it.
I was at the Marianas Trench.
Marianas Trench.
And I don't know if you know what that. I'm sure you know what that is. It's the deepest part of the ocean in the
Yeah.
world. It's near the. I think we were on the 00180 access. I'm actually a gold shellback because I swam across the Marianas Trench on the equator, and that night, so we hung out there until. Stop clapping. So we hung out in that area overnight until we could go back in the port, and we. Oh man, okay, we're already talking about military. I failed. Anyways, this is outside of military. We went back up. Me and some friends went out there, and we saw a illuminating box in the ocean, and it was green. And I know that there's lights out in the ocean. I know a lot about the ocean and
iridescent algae and all sorts of stuff that will.
Yeah, but this was totally different. It was weird. And then there's
glowing.
And then there was so something moved in the sky, and it was not a satellite, because I've had people tell me it's probably a satellite. It was not a satellite. It can. I've talked to someone who works at NASA, and he said it's scientifically impossible for what I saw. So basically, it was a ball of light, and it was bigger than a star, and it went into the ocean, into that square, and that light in the ocean just disappeared. And there was 6 other people. I have people to back me up on this. Like, it was real. I wasn't hallucinating. Yeah, I didn't have much sleep, but I was not hallucinating. It was weird.
Whoa.
So Rob, how do you define paranormal, and can you give us one anecdote?
Hang on, he's gonna respond to that.
So did what you see, was it a flying object?
No, it wasn't. It was not a helicopter or airplane. So basically, it was going at probably light speed. It just flat. You know how you see a shooting star out in space, like it's just really fast. So it did something like that. It was a little bigger than a shooting star. It might have been a meteor. It kind of looked like a meteor going into the ocean almost. Okay. But the weird part is that the part in the ocean where it landed was lit up, and it wasn't a reflection from that light or anything like that. It was a perfect square in the ocean. It was really weird.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So unexplainable.
That's pretty cool. The only sort of thing I had one time before I started doing any acting stuff, I used to work on different shows. Like we were talking about the Daily Show. Like I worked at the Daily Show for a while, but I was like a PA, a production assistant on different shows, and excuse me, and sometimes I would work as a field producer on different shows, and I was working on this shoot that we were doing for AMC, which is the they show a bunch of movies and stuff. And around this is a long time ago, but like it was for Halloween they were going to show all these old horror movies on AMC. This is back when AMC now has shows like Breaking Bad and all that other stuff, but like they used to just show old movies. So for the month of October, they used to just show like scary old movies. And so I worked for a company that was shooting these sort of what they call wraparounds, which is when they have a host that sets up the movie and they introduce it, and then they go back to this person before and after the commercial breaks. And so the guys that I worked for thought it would be fun if we actually went to shoot in real, supposedly haunted houses. So my job one summer was to drive around New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and try to find real haunted houses where there had been like crazy stuff going on, and then we were going to bring the host of the stuff to go and shoot there. And the host was Tim Burton. He directs big movies.
Yeah.
No shit. It was Tim Burton. No big deal.
So
that's awesome. That actually sounds
so
fun.
Tim Burton was the host of this thing. But anyway, so I had to go around like all summer and like talk to these different people that lived in these houses and find out what the history of the house was and what sort of ghost stuff or paranormal stuff they'd had happen there. So it's really interesting because I do like that sort of stuff. I don't know that I believe in it, but I do think it's really fun. And, I like all that sort of stuff. So long story short, we were shooting in this one house in New Jersey. It was this old farmhouse. And the guy that owned the house at some point had started digging in his yard out in the farm, the farm area, and he found like basically a Native American like mass burial. So he had the county come out and dig up all these like old bodies that he found, but he kept, which is so fucked up, he kept a few human skulls and brought them into his
Oh man.
don't do that with Native American stuff. Don't do that.
So he brought these.
He
brought these like skulls into his house and had them up in like his attic. And so we were shooting in his house, and he started telling us all these stories of over the years of all this like crazy stuff, people and apparitions that they had seen, and his kids had been tormented by weird spirits, and like one kid was like held up against the wall by some force, and one kid was like all this like super scary stuff. So
you don't dig up the dead.
So
man.
we went up to his attic, and we were shooting in his attic, and he had gotten rid of the skulls, I think, at this point. But at one point, I was sitting on the floor, listening to this guy tell me about the house, and when he started telling me about the skulls, like I suddenly felt this jolt of electricity in my feet. Like it was as if I had stepped on like a live electrical wire, and something had just like shocked me. And so I just like screamed. I screamed like really loud and like jumped out of my seat. And so that was the only thing that I've ever physically had happen to me where I was like, what the fuck was that? And there was no explanation. Like,
yeah, that's wild.
That is insane.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Well, I grew up in a haunted house, and I think other than just loud noises and things like that normal people are like, oh, ghosts. Me and my buddy Thomas was down at my dock, and this is a lake house, and we saw an old lady walk from our living room into the kitchen back to a back hallway. And so we ran up in there because we're the only people in the house. And there wasn't a grandma running around in the bottom of my house. And as we're standing there in the kitchen, this huge black figure cast a shadow on a corner of a wall. And we thought it was just our shadow. And we tried everything in the world to recreate the shadow, and we couldn't. And it's just one of those things that stick with me to think something was in our house, and then it was big enough to cast a shadow. It was just crazy.
That's wild. At what point in your life?
I know it's.
At what point in your life did you figure out that the house that you grew up in was haunted?
It had to be. I had to be like 14 or 15.
Wow.
How long did you live there?
I still live there.
Oh, you still live there? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's my mom's house. So.
Oh, we are not doing a podcast in your mom's house.
Oh, we are.
We are not doing a podcast in your mom's.
No. Well, cool, guys.
Actually, that would probably go. Yeah, we appreciate your time and everything, and I hope you feel better, man. That's awesome you came on sick.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's not awesome at the same time.
Oh, dude, I really appreciate it, man.
It really shows a lot of motivation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always.
Is there anything that you would?
I'm always happy to.
Go ahead.
Happy to do podcasts with people, and I hope that you guys can build it up and figure out what's different about you guys and sort of what is unique about you guys that nobody else is doing, and you'll figure it out and you'll have yourself a good little niche.
We appreciate it, Rob. We're glad more than anything that you're a real dude and you were willing to take a little bit of time out of your day to shoot the shit, man. So utmost respect. We already loved you, but this put us over the moon, man. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, we got a lot coming, and I think we do. I think we have something that's going to be coming out around next week or the next week. We've already filmed it. It's totally different.
It's our niche, yeah.
It's our niche, yeah. And I hope hopefully you'll get some time to watch it. I'll let you know when we post it, and it's gonna. I'm not gonna ruin it. You could.
Thank you, Rob, from all.
Thank you so much, Rob. We really appreciate it, man.
Have a good
All right,
one,
cool,
man.
guys. Good to meet you. Take it easy.
You too, buddy.
Bye.
Now turn up